got a lot of shine. Running up the number, that's a lot of crime. Try to take it from me, must be out your mind. Lot of sun. Smoky in the air, that's a lot of pine. Pockets running over with the dollar sign. Try to take it from me. Yeah. Big time. Big time. Big time. Big time. Running up the numbers, that's a lot of crime. Try to take it from me, must be out your mind. Lot of smoky in the air, that's a lot of crime. It's running over with the dollar sign. Try to take it from me. Big time. I got a lot of shine. Running up the numbers, that's a lot of grind. Try to take it from me, must be out your mind. I'm big time, lot of shine. Smoky in the air, that's a lot of crime. Pockets running over with the dollar sign. Try to take it from me, from me, from me, from me. Big time, number 9. Got it in my teeth, I got a lot of shine. Running up the numbers, that's a lot of crime. Try and take it from me, must be out your mind.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the Ysn Power Hour. Well, it's the DJ and CJ show here today, and we're gonna take it away, man. We're gonna give this one to the fans. We got a lot to talk about, Siege, but as we do each and every day, let's get to on this day in sports history. On this day, January 25th, 2003, Australian Open women's tennis. Serena Williams wins her 5th Grand Slam singles title and 4th straight when she beat her older sister Venus Williams 7-6, 3-6, and 6-4 for her first Australian title. Foster's, Australian for beer. It brings me to my question of the day coming off of that. Are you the best athlete in your family or on your family tree?
I'd like to say yes, but I'm not. My little brother, Brady, he's in 8th grade. When he gets older, he's going to be a better athlete than I ever was. He's a 3-sport athlete, plays football, basketball, and baseball. He's going to try his hand in soccer at some point, but I don't think he wants to do that. But 3-sport athlete, I mean, it's what my dad dreamed of whenever he had me is, oh, he's going to play football. He's going to play all these. No, I play baseball, but
that was it? Baseball was it for you?
Yeah, I tried my hand at basketball when I was little, but I never really got into the sport, and I never played football. So,
hey man, whatever it takes, right?
Yeah,
I'm pretty doggone good at baseball, though, from what I hear.
I thought I was.
You made a hell of a coach, so that counts for something. So, all right. Am I the best athlete in my family? By far, that is a resounding yes. My sister, I thought she was going to get me for a while. She's a great softball player, above average volleyball player, but she just got more brains than I did. That's what she ended up with. So Jennifer Yoakley, even though she was good, there's a little caveat to interesting note of Yoakley history in sports. My sister and I played. I was on the baseball team. She was on the softball team. We each hit home runs just minutes apart from each other. on different fields, playing the same exact team or same exact school, different teams.
Oh, wow.
And my dad was at one and my mom was at another, and they called each other, and like almost simultaneously we hit home runs at the same time. So that to me, that was one of the coolest things that ever happened to us as like a tandem of athletes. But she'll tell you straight up that I was the better athlete. She just got better brains and better grades and all of that stuff. And for a while she had the better job too. She worked for the Cavaliers. So that's where she met her husband. So, but I think I won this round getting my own sports network. So I'll take that. But yes, I feel like I was the better athlete, but I had to work harder for it. You know, she wasn't short. She had the size to be a frontliner, to be a first baseman,
Yeah.
and she could absolutely smoke a softball. Like she hit like a baseball player, and she just didn't have to work hard for it. You know what I mean? Like she would just go run miles and miles at the park and never lift a baseball or a softball bat until she had to during a game where I'm putting in 1,000 reps every night in the backyard, just trying to make sure I got hand-eye contact and stuff like that. So is that always the case though? You know, like I feel like the person who wants it more a lot of times is going to win out, but some people are just so talented. They're just like, I'll just go pick up a football and sling it 60 yards and be the starting quarterback. Has that ever happened to you where you work your ass off so much and you're like, come on, man, just work a little bit?
When I played, yeah. Because I was my senior year, we had a new head coach, and I'm not really tall. I'm 5'7", and I haven't grown since 10th grade. But, you know, and I worked as hard as I could, but we had a 6'3" first baseman, and he was younger than me, but he was 6'3", and he was a little bit more. He had a better stature. He was taller. He was better. He looked like a better first baseman, so he got the job. And you know, as hard as I could have tried. But I think coaches generally they'll acknowledge the hard work put in, and you know, as long as they're around and they see, you know, what it takes to put it all together. But some guys are just gifted.
Okay, so are you one of those who subscribe to the method of hard work will always beat talent when talent doesn't work hard? Do you subscribe to that?
Yep, 100%. 100%.
I subscribe to it. I just don't always pay my bill, so to speak, because I feel like no matter talent will always beat hard work at the end of the day. Because what happens is typically, if talent fades or diminishes, you'll see them pick up the work ethic and then rise the level. So
true.
I guess I don't know. Is that what it is? Hard work will always beat talent when talent doesn't work hard. But when talent does work hard, you're in trouble. So I guess it does hold true.
Yeah, I think generally too, the more talented you are, the more of a work ethic you have, and the more of an understanding you have of, okay, I'm probably one of the better players in my program. I kind of need to be more of a leader in that sense. So I don't see it very often where just the talented players will sit around and do nothing all day, and they just show up and hit 5 home runs and whatever. And I tend to think that it goes hand in hand for the most part.
See, it always used to be like, and I don't want to single out the smaller schools, but the smaller schools always had the kids that worked hard. So like, let's say you have a baseball team full of 12 people, right? 12 guys. You have 7 guys that work really hard. You got a couple fringe players that really don't want to be there, but are because maybe their parents want them to play in high school, at least for their first couple seasons. And then you have the guys that are just ridiculously talented and, you know, are football or basketball players, you know, not that they're not baseball players, but like, they're just like there, you know, there because it's something to do to keep them in shape for whatever sport it is. And this could be any sport. It doesn't have to be baseball and football or whatever, but they're so ridiculously talented that it almost sometimes, you know, knocks the guys that are working their tails off down a peg or two. And they're like, I'm fighting a losing cause here. What do you tell those guys that put in the time, the effort, excuse me, to get to where they need to be above average to good to great. And there's just people that just walk in a gym and start throwing and slinging the ball 90 miles an hour and are able to figure it out.
Yeah, that's always a tough one because I was the latter of that. I was the the kid that would have to basically work out 5-6 times a week, and because I was mostly a pitcher and I threw 78 or not 78 70 miles an hour. That's my fastball.
I was going
I
to say
was a sinker
78. That
baller
was
guy.
me.
No, sorry, but 70, and I had a good curveball. But it's tougher because some of these kids are they're so talented, they're so gifted. Not everybody's like that. And I just go back to, listen, if you put in the work and if you put in the due diligence and you're patient, it's gonna come to flourishing.
Fruition.
What's that word? Fruition. Yeah, it's gonna come to fruition, right? Your coaches are gonna notice it. As long as your coaches really care, they really are there every day, watching their players work out, whatever it may be. They're really analyzing what they have. It'll come together. It's not gonna come. You're not gonna wake up one day throwing 85. Our ace at Beaver, our best pitcher, so gifted. He's a sophomore. He throws 85. He's 6'3". He's just it's what you want in a pitcher. He's got the pitcher body, pitcher mentality. It's what you want. Our number 2, he's a scrawny kid, and he's very scrawny. He's a year older.
I hope he doesn't watch his
He
show.
he throws 80 miles an hour. I mean,
Wow.
he works his tail off.
What year is he?
He doesn't. He's a senior.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a senior, and he just works his tail off. He's quiet about it. He's not, you tell him something to do, he'll go do it for you. It's beautiful. But he just had, he had to work a little bit harder, but he got there, and that was the key. Is he got there? He put in the time. He put in the effort. He showed up to practice. That's another big thing. When we have these winter workouts that aren't mandatory, they show up and they put in the work, and so we can see them throughout the year. Rather than them just showing up in March, here I am, I can throw 85.
Okay, so we've talked about the guys that have the work ethic, the guys that are just naturally talented. Where does the push need to come from to allow people to know, a student athlete or an athlete in general, to allow them to know that they are gifted? They are, okay, you can do something with this, whether it's D3, D2, D1, whether it's just being very good in high school or in summer ball, whatever the case. Who needs to push that person? Does it have to come from within? Can it come from a coach? Should it come from a parent? Should it come from your uncle? Should it come from another parent on the team that says, whoa, you got something here?
I think it's a combination. So I think, yes, the coach should absolutely be the one that should be pushing all of his players or her players to really put forth their best effort and bring the best out of their kids. The parents as well, it should be, a dual effort in that front. Parents should absolutely want the best out of their children and to see their kids succeed. But I think it's a third factor as well, and I think it's their teammates. Their teammates, if you really want your team to succeed, that team needs to gel, and they need to work well together, and they need to push each other to bring the best out of each other. Because once you have that one, I hate using the phrase, but once you have that one cancer, it'll start to deteriorate.
Weak link in a chain.
Right. Yes, that's probably better phrase to use, but a weak link. It'll start to deteriorate the team a little bit, and I think just as long as they're pushing each other to better themselves, they're not going at each other. They're not attacking, calling each other lazy or something, stuff like that. It's positive. It's a positive reinforcement type thing. But I think all three really, help bring together a team and push together what you want in the end.
Okay, so you've talked about team chemistry. Basically, you're hitting on that. Where do you find that? Is it something you can look in a Where's Waldo book and point it out and say, okay, it was hidden, but I found it? Is it something that you need to go through adversity? Is it something that you need? What is the magic recipe for getting team chemistry? Because I feel like, I mean, if you go back a few years to the South Range State Championship baseball team, they were a team that didn't like each other very much for a good part of that season. There was a lot of losing that happened that they incurred during the regular season, and then they get to the postseason, and it was like Tinkerbell came down and sprinkled pixie dust on all of them, and all of a sudden they were playing above their means. And we've seen teams do that, and there's great players that certainly were on that team that were playing well for the majority of the season, and then it was like the others just matched it in the playoffs, and they were almost at fisticuffs in dugout, and then all of a sudden they turned the corner through a little bit of adversity, and next thing you know, they're state champions, battling through these games and a set of circumstances that it was just magical. But then you have other teams that seemingly can go season or seasons without finding team chemistry. What is the magic recipe, CJ, if there is one out there, to finding team chemistry so your team can either win games or at least have fun playing together?
Yeah, I think it's a very tricky one. I'll go based off of what I saw in 2019. So in 2019 was the best year of baseball that I had. I was a sophomore coach. It was my second year. So a lot of the kids that I was coaching were my teammates 2 years prior. During that span, when I was a player and up until that point, we didn't have a lot of success. There was a lot of gripe and failure, and we made the playoffs 1 year and we were out the first round. I mean, there just wasn't a ton of success. And so those players, they were a bunch of seniors, with 14 seniors on that team. They didn't get to experience winning baseball. So where does the gel come? I think sometimes it takes a new coach. And I think sometimes it'll take a new coaching staff, a new philosophy, to kind of turn the chapter, turn the page. So for us, that year in 2019, we had a brand new coach come in. Thank God he let me stay on board to be a coach. I'm always grateful for him for that. He's such a great dude, Noah Medich. And what he came in with was a new mindset, a new strategy, new culture that he wanted to implement. And throughout that off season, you could feel it. You could feel, there was a new vibe, a new energy around the team. Now, we get to playing. Vibes are good, right? We're all excited. We lose our first 6 games. We lost our first 6 games. All of them were non-conference, and they were all against teams that were higher, ranked. Like they were all 5A teams, we're a 4A team. So they were really good teams, but we lose all 6. Then we played a team that was lower than us, and they were called the Freedom Area. Mm-hmm. We beat them like 15-2 or something. We crushed them, and that's where it switched because we won a game. We got to build off it. We went 9-2 and 9-3 in section, and then we won WIPIALs, and we came in second at states. But it's what it takes. I think it takes a new mentality sometimes.
But it sounds like from that
a little bit of adversity.
It sounds like from your story, though, winning healed your team.
Yep.
So winning. So what you're saying is the old adage of winning heals all.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Yep. With the new mentality, with the new strategy, with the adversity, came winning. And winning, it's the best Band-Aid you can get. When you start winning, it fixes everything.
Okay, so in terms of team chemistry, yes, winning will make you look like your team is gelling, but a great example of this is right now is Salem. Great example a couple years ago was West Branch. You can always name like one team a year that you look at and you go, okay, that's the team this year. That's the team that has it all together, the components, the seven secret herbs and spices, from KFC. So when you're looking at a team like Salem girls basketball this year, you look at they only have 2 losses on the year. They've been tested. They've played some great basketball. They've lost to the same team twice, and that's the only registered loss on their record. But when you look at the victories, they're the same in wins as they are in losses. They care about each other on and off the field. And if EB was here, he would say the same thing, even probably more so when they lose, do they care about each other? So, I've heard people say, and coaches will say, and sometimes parents, especially when they're trying to console their kids, sometimes you need to lose a game in order to have a better outcome at the end of the season. Are you a believer in that? Or is that just an excuse to say, here, don't worry about it. I don't necessarily believe in that. I believe in stacking pancakes and stacking wins, right? So if you're winning is going to make you feel better than any other thing. Once you lose, it's like you dropped all your pancakes on the floor and the dog came over and get them before you could tend to them. So what theory do you like better? Just keep winning, or do you have to throw a loss in there somewhere to kind of get your bearings back?
I could see the mentality, just keep winning, but I kind of think you need a little loss, a little bit of a chip on your shoulder just to bring yourself down a peg. When we had kind of convinced ourselves we were we're such a good team, but then we lose 6 in a row. We needed that, we needed that punch in the chin, say, listen, you guys haven't done nothing throughout your high school career. Don't come into this season thinking it's going to be any different. You got to work. You got to put in the time. We go into section and we lost our section by 1 game against Blackhawk. And we were in the section championship game at their place. We lost that game 3-2. And our best, arguably one of our better players, he was our sophomore. He was our third baseman. And this play wasn't the reason we lost, but one of the bigger plays, he dropped a foul ball at third base, dropped a foul ball. We end up losing that game. And then he goes on and has the best postseason I've ever seen. I mean, you don't have to, but I think it helps, getting dropped down a peg.
So getting a little humble pie before
finding humility. Yep. Get humbled a little bit and go out and perform. And once you perform, whatever you did prior, whatever mistakes you made, doesn't matter.
Okay. So we're in a little bit, we're going to talk about, after we take a break, we're going to talk about if you cheat or are caught cheating or are accused of cheating, any realm of all of those, should you be rewarded into a Hall of Fame situation? Everybody knows right now, or maybe you don't, that tonight the Baseball Writers of America will release their ballot for this year's Hall of Fame class. And there's a lot of people that are going to be really upset if guys like Barry Bonds are left off of that ballot, myself included. I was a big Barry Bonds fan, obviously, when he started with the Pirates and well into his career. And we're going to get into it in a little bit. Let's just put it that way. But I want the viewers to start thinking about this, and I want you to think at a local level. So local, regional, national, because, I mean, you said it yourself. If you're suspended, you wouldn't want them in the Hall of Fame. But, CJ, I'm going to take your thoughts and raise you one. If that's the case, Mr. Brady, on the football side of things, should he be in Canton because he was suspended? Should Ben Roethlisberger be in Canton because he was suspended? If you're suspended, whether it's for cheating or otherwise, abuse or whatever, should you be allowed in a Hall of Fame situation? And I think the same goes in high schools. I mean, there's a lot of kids and that weren't necessarily putting their best foot forward in high school, and now because they have awesome accolades on the athletic floor or on the athletic surface, they're in a Hall of Fame situation. Should those players be inducted in the Hall of Fame if they face suspension? We want to talk about that all when we come back on the Power Hour. CJ Schroeds, DJ Yoakley here, and we want to hear from you. Make sure that you could chime in on the comment section. We disabled the phones because we were getting some crank calls and they were pretty good. So we want to hear from you, no matter if you're real or fake. If it's a burner account, that's fine too. We want to hear your thoughts on if you are suspended in high school, in college, or in professionally. Should you be allowed in the Hall of Fame? Yes or no, and why? Take a break. Be back right after this on the Ysn Power Hour, brought to you by these great sponsors.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Working with your family can be stressful at times, but because they're family, you know that you're going to get a loving, honest answer, even when things don't make sense to any problem. Dealing with Medicare can be confusing and overwhelming. That's why here at Myers Family Insurance, we do our best to give you honest and caring answers to all of your questions. Family, like Medicare, isn't always perfect, but when you put others first, the results can be amazing.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance.
Storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Notice we'll have scattered showers on Thursday.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local, independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsuranceSolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
And welcome back to the YSN Power Hour. DJ Yoakley, CJ Schroeds right there. Before we get to the topic at hand for the second half of the show, Siege, I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention, Big Dogs of the Valley Week 8 now open for basketball boys, basketball girls, and wrestling for Week 2. Congratulations to the Week 7 winners. I know that we put out Week 8. I think I jumped the gun a little bit this morning whenever I was putting those graphics together. It is Week 7 of the winners. Trey DePietro for the boys. Congratulations to Trey. Abby Farber for the girls of Poland. And Sean O'Horo of Boardman, our first ever wrestling Big Dog of the Valley. So a couple of Spartans and a Bulldog taking home the championship this week. All of those Big Dog winners through 8 weeks and then beyond will be put into another kind of poll at the end of the season or at the end of our season, right before tournaments, and they will kind of battle for the Big Dog of the Year for basketball, and we'll have 3 to 4 wrestlers, depending on how long that goes. I think we're definitely going to have 3. We're going to try to squeeze in a 4th one there as well. The wrestlers almost broke the freaking site this week, man. 185,000 votes for wrestlers. It was bananas, absolutely bananas. It's been a minute since we've seen that many votes on something that wasn't for Big Dog of the Year. So make sure that you get out and vote for the Big Dog of the Valley this week, brought to you by Baird Brothers. And of course, all you have to do is go to ysnlive.com/bigdogs, or you can click the link in the comment section right here on the show. All right, Siege, when you look at Hall of Fame, there's the Hall of Really Good, there's the Hall of Good, and then there's the Hall of Fame. And from a standpoint of where you look at, it's always weird to me whenever you see someone that was on your team or on, in your generation make a Hall of Fame, because you knew kind of their backstory, their backlog, and you might have been hanging out with the kid, or he or she might be on your team and they got detentions or suspensions, or they might have got caught or slap on the wrist in college or high school for doing something they shouldn't have done. And 15 years go by, and all of a sudden you see them, you go back to your alma mater and you see them on the wall for the Hall of Fame, and you start wondering yourself, if they only knew. If they only knew. So my question to you is, if they knew, should that player go into the Hall of Fame for sports? And on the national level, we look at Barry Bonds' situation, Roger Clemens, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, go on and on and on and on and on. And the list is only going to get longer when A-Rod and players of that nature look to go into the Hall of Fame from the baseball side. From the football side, Ben Roethlisberger suspended 4 games earlier in his career. Tom Brady suspended 4 games early in his career. Then you look at, Julian Edelman. He was suspended for games. I don't even know if he's a Hall of Famer. In my mind, he is. But can you and should you suspend and hold it against these players, local, regional, national, college, high school, and pro, if they weren't Hall of Fame people off the field?
So this is always the debate everyone has at this time in the year. So for the high school level, that's a tricky one. I don't know. If people knew about it and still voted them in, I think that'd be kind of tough. But I think generally for the Hall of Fame for the high school level, it tends to be people that really defined the culture of the school, or really defined, what they were trying to build there. And, whether it's a coach or a player, you tend not to see players get, high school kids get, rewarded in that sense. So it really has to be like a really pinpoint, this was whatever school, this was it. But when we get to baseball, okay, this is a tough one, because I always go back and forth on it, and I think there's a little bit of nuance that needs to be had. So I think for the players like Barry Bonds and Clemens, I don't think PEDs necessarily defined their careers. It did when they got older. It certainly did when they got older. There ain't no way anyone can convince me Barry Bonds hitting 75 home runs when he's 40 years old is legitimate. It's just, that's not. There ain't no way. And then Clemens, he had 3 Cy Youngs before he really started getting into it, which would be around the 2000s. You win 3 Cy Youngs, you're a Hall of Famer, really. And for Bonds, his Pirate career was a Hall of Fame. He was on track for it.
Correct me if I'm wrong. 30-30 guy or 40-40 guy? I can't remember. I think it was 30-30.
He was 30-30. Yeah, I don't remember him hitting a 40 in Pittsburgh, but I think for the guys like Sosa, I really think Sosa's career was defined by him taking PEDs.
I would agree. Where was Sammy Sosa before the Mark McGwire home run chase? I don't remember. He played for the Rangers, and then he got traded to the Cubs, and he was and I hate saying that he was a nobody, but he was a nobody. He was just a regular average Joe right fielder. That all of a sudden, hit 60-some home runs, and it was the resurgence of baseball in America.
Yeah, and that's another factor to it, because I see a lot of people, they'll bring this up is, well, baseball was a dying sport at that point. Maybe, and it's a good thing that, I wouldn't say it's a good thing, but it helped the sport that McGuire and Sosa every night on ESPN, their at-bats were getting broadcasted. It definitely helped the sport. People were intrigued with, oh, did either one hit a home run? Who's going to win the home run chase?
The cut-ins were unbelievable.
I agree that for the sport, it helped. In the long run, it screwed up the sport because more people thought that it was okay. Oh, well, if Sammy Sosa's doing it, I guess me at 40 years old, I can do it and hit 50 home runs. And, and I think in the long run, it did hurt the sport.
Here's a perfect comment. Texted in. You can't punish someone for something the league was promoting and benefiting from. Do you agree?
I agree with that. I do. The league they screwed up in not, coming down on it sooner. But I still can't put Sosa in. I would put Bonds and Clemens in, but Sosa, McGuire, I don't know.
I think McGuire should be in. I think McGuire was established prior to him going to the reason that he went to the Cardinals was because he hit home runs and they wanted him. So
yeah,
I can include McGuire in there. Sosa, I see your point. A-Rod, we haven't even scratched the surface on this cat. He businessman, love him, right? But he's an absolute shark. No pun intended, because he was on Shark Tank. But he's an absolute shark. He's an absolute scumbag as a human being, as I understand. And he was a greedy a-hole baseball player, that cheated up and down, lied to people's faces about it. And no, he shouldn't get in the Hall of Fame because of what he did. And somebody's probably sitting back there, well, why does he get in the Hall of Fame or why doesn't he? And this guy, because to your point, I think it has to be, were they good Hall of Fame caliber prior to using PEDs? Now, shame on them for using PEDs, but let's face it, MLB benefited from it. The MLB didn't benefit from A-Rod taking steroids. A-Rod benefited from A-Rod taking steroids 252 million times over. So when you look at that, let's skip over to football real quick. From Roethlisberger's standpoint, the knock on every Browns fan about Roethlisberger is his history of abuse, of sexual abuse, of alleged sexual abuse and things like that prior to him finding God and all that stuff. That 4-game suspension that he served, that should have been 8 games if you ask some, and ended up being in reality 4 games, thanks to Roger Goodell. Does he? And the funny thing is, everybody, even the NFL social media page, says, we'll see you in Canton, Ben. Should he get a free pass, so to speak, into the Hall of Fame if he was suspended? I think that it's tough because you don't want to damn these guys because they made one wrong move. But if they're going to do it to Tom Brady and his team cheated, then Roethlisberger should also get in because he made one wrong mistake. So that's kind of where I'm at on those guys. But again, I don't feel good about it. It doesn't make me get the warm and fuzzies when you look at that situation. You go, well, they were suspended. Like, you don't sit there and tell your son or daughter, I know a lot of people had a hard time wearing the 7 jerseys for a long time based on what Ben did. Nobody had a hard time, apparently, wearing the 12 jersey because they all supported Tom Brady because they won the Super Bowl that year after that. So when you look at that, Super Bowl or not, superstar or not, should guys like Roethlisberger, Brady, Julian Edelman, I'm trying to think some other guys, Ray Lewis, Michael Irvin, Randy Moss, get into the Hall of Fame for being bad apples?
So I tend to look at it as, does it define your career? And I think generally as a country, we are a forgiving country for the most part. We tend to give people second chances. What Ben did was by no means am I ever going to, give that a pass. I don't think it defined his career. I think he was able to, you know, be better. He was able to move past it, and I think the NFL, as in response, they went along and they kind of accepted it, and not accepted it, but they moved along with it. And if it defined your career, that's where I tend to stand. Then yeah, you should really be slighted for it. Same with Brady. Brady
Okay,
has.
so let's play the one word answer game, right? I'm going to give you a
Okay.
player. You tell me the first thing that, it doesn't have to be one word, just first thing that comes to your mind. Okay. Ray Lewis.
Hall of Famer.
Okay. Aaron Hernandez.
Well, he only played a couple years, but that's about as bad as it gets. I think because it got him jail time for a long time. So
sure. So I'm trying to get the stratosphere here. The lines on both sides. All right. So let's go. Jerome Bettis.
What'd the bus do? I don't know. What did he do? I'm playing ignorance here. I don't know.
Oh, I'm not. He didn't get suspended, I don't think. But he had some bad times with the Rams. They got him traded to Pittsburgh.
Well, his career in Pittsburgh put him in the Hall.
Yeah, absolutely. But he was pretty doggone good with the Rams as well. I want to say that he was Rookie of the Year. I could be off on that, but I want to say he was pretty doggone good his rookie year, because they put him at fullback, I think, and they just he was the bus. He was the battering ram. So let's go with a guy like Rob Gronkowski, who has been known to have fun off the field and things of that nature, but also has reestablished tight end. Does he get into the Hall of Fame?
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay.
Because the antics you have off the field, as long as nobody gets hurt, generally, I would.
Oh, jeez.
You can be a goofball off the field, but still be a hell of a tight end.
Right.
What
about basketball? Rodman?
No, it's a little different. I don't know about that one. I don't. Is he in the Hall? I'm not sure.
I don't know that, to be honest with you. I just thought to myself, who's the biggest polarizing figure in basketball?
That one's tough.
Westbrook. You look at guys like Brian West. Is it Brian Westbrook? I've never called him his first name before. I'll be honest with you. Russell Westbrook, right? Russell Westbrook?
Yeah.
That's what it is. Russell Westbrook. Who the hell's Brian Westbrook? I have no idea. He's not going to the Hall of Fame, tell you that. Russell
Absolutely
Westbrook, polarizing figure. More turnovers than points some nights, and you look at that, and he's had some off the court shenanigans too. So, the guys like that. I guess the bigger question here, when we break it down, is, do your actions off the court affect your Hall of Fame or recognition on the court? And should it, for good reason or no?
So the best example I have for baseball is Curt Schilling with that topic. Some of the nonsense he puts on social media has killed him over the last 10 years that they've been voting for him, and he ain't getting into the Hall this year. As a player, 100% he's a Hall of Famer. And they try to invoke this, what's it called? The player clause, the personality clause, and which basically states your off the field antics are just as important as
perfect
how you play on the field, and if you're an ambassador for the game, and that has helped players in the past get in that weren't necessarily Hall of Fame players. Right. You know, it screws Pete Rose every time the Hall of Fame's brought up. That's why Pete Rose is in the Hall of Fame. For Schilling, I think he's a Hall of Famer. Is he a good person? No, but it ain't a Hall of I've said it every year. It's not a Hall of Saints. You know, we're not looking at these players. Ty Cobb's a perfect example. He was a notorious racist. Notorious. Like, he was looked at as a bad person. He was a hell of a baseball player, and he's in the Hall of Fame for a reason.
It
ain't a Hall of Saints.
Hall of Fame, and that's to put a bow on all of this. This is what I can't get behind is these writers that sit there and go, shame on you, you didn't give me an interview, or you denied me this, or that. Like, if we're just judging them on their baseball talents or football talents or basketball or whatever the sport is, you have to leave their off the field stuff alone, right?
Yeah.
And I understand they're going to argue, well, the PEDs turned into an on the field situation. Yes, but so did racism back in the day. So did gambling in the 70s and 80s. So, I mean, gambling in the NBA in the 90s, you know, it forced Michael Jordan into retirement, arguably, or so the story goes. So when you look at this, whether it's in high school, whether it's in college, or whether it's in professional ranks, you have to look at what is available on the statistics, right? What kind of teammate that person was on and off, I guess just on the field. Because at the end of the day, it should not matter what that person did off the field unless you're going to, you know, bring them into your college or regular high school Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? But if it's a sports Hall of Fame, it's about sports, right? If it's a regular Hall of Fame, it's about people or the community or whatever they bring to that. But in the Baseball Hall of Fame, to keep guys like Barry Bonds out, to keep guys like Roger Clemens out, to keep, I mean, how do we know that these players now aren't using and they're just absolutely masked beyond belief? You know, technology is getting better. So are the drugs. So are the guys selling the drugs. So when you look at that, these guys can afford stuff that we could only dream about, right? And they're only going to spend more money on these drugs that make them better and better and better. And especially if they can be masked and they don't have to incur an 80-game suspension or whatever it is. So I'm with you, CJ. I firmly believe that if you're on the field and you put up the numbers, if you haven't been absolutely damned and prosecuted to the full extent, you should be in. And I'm also an advocate that the suspension should be harder. If you're gone, if you're caught using, you're done. It's a privilege to play baseball, to play football, to play professional sports. You get paid a lot of money to do it. And if you're cheating, sorry, you're taking somebody's roster spot. We'll see you later.
Yeah.
So
and so with the discussion on A-Rod, I think I think PEDs really defined his career, at least his Yankees career. It lengthened his career about 6-7 years. So he could hit about another 200, 250 home runs as a Yankee.
And isn't that what most people don't understand? Is it's not about trying to hit home runs. It's about lengthening your career and minimizing injury.
Yep. And I think that him lying about it, and I come down heavily on, if you're suspended for PEDs, just for PEDs, then that's like the biggest red stamp. You can't, I don't know how you would be able to vote for that.
You're out. You should
right.
Be out.
Yeah. So when you have guys like Bonds or Clemens or even David Ortiz, they're suspected of using PEDs, but none of them were suspended for it.
Was McGuire ever suspended for it? I can't remember.
I don't know. I
can't remember at all. We heard stories.
But I think,
from Seiko.
Yeah, and I said it earlier. I do think Sosa's career was defined by it. I mean, you just look at.
Was he suspended?
I don't think so. I don't think back then, honestly, I don't think baseball cared.
I don't think they tested either. It's
And
kind of like
so
COVID
that
now.
comment earlier, baseball benefited from those guys.
Oh, and it needed it at that time. Baseball was a dying sport. You know, people don't realize baseball is not a TV sport. It's a radio sport. You know, football is a television sport. Basketball is a television sport. Baseball is not. You know, it's. I'm going to say this, and I love baseball as much as the next guy. It's a boring sport to watch on television. You go to the game, you enjoy it because you're in the atmosphere. You smell the different smells, the fresh cut grass, the hot dogs, the popcorn, all that stuff, and you take it in. Football, you're trying not, you're dodging beer drops. You know what I mean? From that standpoint, it's better at home, I think, and same with basketball. But people don't necessarily engage in baseball as much anymore because the baseball cards that we all had when we were younger, it's trending back, it's trending upward, but it's nowhere near its peak in like the 90s. And people just don't care. They don't have time to watch a 3.5 hour baseball game, but coincidentally, they've got time to watch a 3.5 hour football game on Sunday. But I think that it's because there's 162 games. I really do believe that if baseball cut the season in half, and probably should have taken the lead from a couple years ago when they went to 60 games, then it would be more popular and just as revenue generating with 60 games as 162 based on, because, and I argue this with a guy who sat in this seat a long time ago, the revenue for baseball is not made on the daily basis inside the stadiums. It's made on the TV deals. And that's what pays the salaries, the sponsorships, you know, of the stadiums. That's what pays the salaries. It's not the everyday fan going in, or else we wouldn't get tickets on SeatGeek for $5, you know, to go watch a baseball game. So that's my argument. But overall, CJ, your thoughts are if you were caught red-handed, you should not be allowed in the hall. Is that what I'm getting?
Yep. That's my general kind of stance that I take. And I think to kind of build off it in future years, especially whenever this generation, you know, 20 years from now, whenever this generation, it gets, you know, their time to be elected, we're going to have the same discussion, but with sticky stuff, the tack that they're using. It's going to be the same discussion. And it's because MLB does not come down and come out with clear-cut rules. They did this year, and there's going to be suspensions from here on out. So, you know, but we're going to have the same discussion. And I think another one before we end things, another one I want to bring up is, should players get kind of taken a step back for where they played? For example, I hate the argument that because Todd Helton played in Colorado, he's not a Hall of Famer. I think that's a bunch of BS. Todd Helton was the face of the Colorado Rockies, and because he played there, he gets looked at as some, you know, not below, but just some average player. You know, he wouldn't have done that in Yankee State. He wouldn't have done that in Fenway, blah. It's one of the 30 MLB teams. Todd Helton's is a Hall of Famer, period. It bugs me every year when they say, "Oh, but he played in Denver." Well, then maybe Colorado shouldn't have a team. Maybe if Colorado is such a different brand of baseball, why do they have a team? If we're gonna punish players,
exactly. That's spot on. It's 100. If they're in the major leagues, it counts. No matter where they're at. You know, if it's a temperature, fine. Then everybody would want to play in Colorado. I would argue they would have a hell of a free agent list in Colorado if it was that easier to play at Coors Field. So well played, my friend. Very well played. But you know what time it is? It's time for the Spark. But first, we go to ysnlive.com/live for all of your great games for tonight. Just a few cancellations on the books for us tonight. on YSN, but you can catch all the games tonight, ysnlive.com/live. There are live hyperlinks to each game. All you have to do, scroll down a little bit and press play. Oh, by the way, before you scroll down, check out all those great sponsors that make the games absolutely free for you each and every night until playoff time. And then, well, that's an OHSAA thing. That's when that's when they really start digging in. Chris Sigler says Edgar Martinez because he was a DH. I'm with that one, but I would like to be a little bit harder on the designated hitters because they have a half a job. That's it. I don't necessarily agree with letting in a slew of designated hitters because.
But then I would say that it's a position, right? It's a position on the field that needs to be played. It is. Well, you'd have to be really good DH to, like all-stars every year. Like you'd have to be really good. That's Edgar Martinez. That's David Ortiz. I mean, there's not a whole lot of guys after that you could point to and say, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer.
I have a hard time with the DH being in the Hall of Fame, and not because of their offense, but reality, you're playing half a position. The same way that I have an argument with pitchers ever winning most valuable players because you're playing once every 5 days. Your MVP is called the Cy Young. Accept it. Be grateful for it. You play once every 5 days. What about the guys that play every day? You know what I mean? You should not qualify for that at all. And, they shouldn't let kickers qualify for the Heisman Trophy. I'm all for that. You know what I mean? So, all right, let's go to. I had it lined up. I don't know where I put it. Here it is. The What's Your Spark? Presented by Joe Dickey Electric. It's the Joe Dickey Electric. What's Your Spark? This time every day on the Power Hour, we talk about something good, something bad, something indifferent, something we will put on a pedestal for good, bad, or indifferent reasons. And it's powered by our friends over at Joe Dickey Electric. Visit them today at DickeyElectric.com. Joe Dickey Electric, proudly powering the Mahoning Valley for over 60 years. CJ, what is your spark?
So I was going to do the MLB Player Union. They met today again. Really, the only thing I have to say about that is I'm just happy they're talking. I think it's a good sign that both sides are finally coming together. I don't understand why they didn't do this 2 months ago. But the issue now is the further they keep going and, messing around with it, you're getting closer and closer to spring training. And there's people already talking about, we're going to lose spring training games. And MLB, I've said it before, they cannot survive another screwed up year. So figure it out. But I do want to go on a positive note. And my players at Beaver, we're finishing up our winter workouts as far as our strength training is concerned. We got to work with a great guy at Beaver or at Brady's Run Fitness, Doug Miller. I want to give a shout out to him. Such a good dude. He really took kind of the bull by the horns and put together some incredible training programs for our players. And I think that we're going to see the benefits throughout the year. He really went above and beyond for our players, and I can't thank him enough.
There you go, man. Doug Miller, props to you, my friend. And just a hop, skip, and a jump away from East Palestine. Mine is going to be a positive because it's the snowplow drivers. Yesterday, obviously, we lost a lot of games. Again, thought it was going to happen again tonight because of some of the conditions, but luckily no snow, and the plow drivers have really cleaned up the streets. But I also want to send a little bit of a negative spark out there to the people that absolutely crush plow drivers on social media, like from the comfort of your home and your computer or your phone or whatever. Like, these are people that are out plowing the streets so you can get to where you need to go. And they're doing the best they can. And maybe you don't understand how plows work, because sometimes, the first layer is 3 inches, right? So if you get 12 inches, it's going to take 3 or 4 passes to get down to that road level again. And just because you can't go get your Dunkin' on a Monday, like these people are sacrificing time with their families. This isn't their normal job. This is what they're doing like for a side hustle. So calm down, relax, make your ass some hot chocolate. You'll be okay. Dunkin' will be there tomorrow, or your favorite. I shouldn't say Dunkin' because we could get them as a sponsor, but it'll be there, right? At the end of the day, it'll be there. And if you don't have Storm Tracker 21 and you don't know about the snow that's coming, shame on you. It's called technology. Use that phone that you're complaining on. Download the Storm Tracker 21 app and be prepared next time. So that way you don't have to whine and complain about, I just want to go out and I want this. You live in Ohio. Relax. It's to be expected. It's not Miami. Chill out. Enjoy the snow day, right? Because what happens is when we get 2 snow days, people complain about it. But 1 snow day, it's a miracle. So just relax. Enjoy it. As Chris Sigler says, those are probably the same people who leave their garbage can out on the street all week. As a matter of fact, Chris, it is. It's 100% those people. But that is going to wrap it up. So if you stop complaining, people, like really, people beg for snow days. And yet here we are complaining about 2 in a row because plow drivers, like leave those poor people alone. And as a matter of fact, if you see them out there, go out and give them some hot chocolate. You know what I mean? Give them some love because they deserve it. I mean, a lot of times they're pulling double duty. They're plowing all night. They're doing that stuff. Our buddy Steve Leslie, our general manager, has gotten like 4 hours of sleep in 2 nights because he's out trying to make sure the roads are out there. That's my hero. That's my guy. You know what I mean? It's the reason we have games tonight. So if you're out there and you're keeping the streets and all this stuff taken care of in the snow off of it, thank you. We appreciate you here at YSN. That's going to do it for our show today. CJ, thanks for joining me. I thought it was a great conversation, and I look forward to the one tomorrow because I think Scotty's going to be here, and you know what that means. It's going to be hell on wheels, my friend. No pun intended. That's going to do it for today's show. Again, thanks, CJ. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow, 3 to 4, right here on YSN. YSN thanks you for